Welcome into the I-80 Boys podcast. As always, I'm your host, Christian Hunt, and over there, that douche Knazzle is...
Chris, and I'm probably the oldest Dolphins fan on the planet, apparently. Christian, how the hell you been, man? It's been a minute. What have you been up to? It looks like you put on some weight. What do you know?
Dude, quietly bulking over here. That's what we've been doing. A little bit at a time, just really soaking in this draft that we just got to see. Chris, I mean, what are your thoughts on that, man? I mean, what do you think? What are your thoughts initially on this draft?
You know what, man? I watched first, second day. I didn't get to watch a lot of the back half of it, but on Saturday. But I will say, good draft. I think there's a lot of good players. I think the QB shuffle, team shuffling up top to land a QB was super interesting. I think that was kind of why everybody was watching too, is to see where those top 4 or 5 quarterbacks go, right? Will Levis slip into the second round. That was a big topic. A lot of articles on that and news and ESPN all over that shit with him being in the green room and then having to wait like Aaron Rodgers did, right? So no, I thought overall though the draft was a good draft, man. It was interesting to see what certain teams' needs, wants were. Some of the trades I thought were kind of crazy as far as moving up and then shuffling back. So what were your thoughts, Christian? I kind of like to hear what you thought, buddy.
Yeah, man, I think it was one of those things where, I mean, it was interesting. I think every year in the NFL, there's a lot of misinformation that starts coming out, like that right leading up to the draft. Will Levis was they were saying, hey, he might go number 1. That started kind of creeping in a couple days before. And then it was interesting because obviously he waited till the second day. And so you look at a lot of these teams that kind of put all these scouting reports out and they say, oh, don't draft this guy because X, Y, and Z. And then they end up drafting him really high anyways. And then, this guy's a lock in the first round. And then he slips all. There were some guys that were supposed to be like first or second round talents that barely got drafted, dude.
I think a lot of it is a lot of smoke and mirrors. I think teams do that too, right? They put a lot of bullshit out there. So people really don't know what they're going to do, right? And it makes sense from a team perspective. Hey, if I really want Anthony Richardson at, which I thought was kind of crazy, the Colts took him at 4. They were talking all offseason about how they wanted freaking Will Levis. Even Peyton Manning signed off on him. It was kind of crazy, right? And then that might have been all bullshit, obviously, right? And maybe they didn't think AR-15 was going to be sitting there at that point either. But just it's a lot of fluff. It's a lot of shit to weed through, I think. And I kind of love that part of it though, right? Teams jostling around trying to figure out. Nobody really knows who anybody really. The only thing that was really kind of sure cut, Christian, was our boy Bryce Young going number 1 to the Panthers. Everybody kind of knew that a couple 3-4 days up at the draft. I think Will Levis was kind of thrown in there, but I think that was kind of one of those. Let's see what happens. See if somebody bites on that type of thing.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, the other thing that I kind of noticed too from this, Chris, and this is more from the post grading side of it that a lot of other analysts and stuff like that are starting to kind of break down. And that is apparently everybody won the draft.
Oh, geez.
You know what I mean? Apparently the lowest grade I think I've seen is maybe like a C-. So everybody's passed. Everybody did a great job in this draft. So I expect, it's going to be a tight race this year, like it always is.
Yeah, no, it's funny you say that because I'm a big NFL guy, as you know, and I read a lot and listen to a lot of stuff on NFL related stuff, and everything's been about the draft lately. And now it's, where does all these teams, rate per our rankings, on how they drafted? And yeah, I've seen the fucking shuffle between. I've seen teams on some people's list at A+, and then on another person's list C-, and it's just like, come on, man. You know what I mean? Like, I know we all have different opinions of what makes the world go around. I get all that, but it's just kind of funny. It's funny you talked about that, Christian. So, you got anything else to say on this, or where are we going? Are we going to do our own little kind of where we think here?
We're going to talk about who won the draft, and really, I think who won the draft. You're not going to know that, but I think which teams got better. Which teams improved the most coming out of the draft. And you're going to see that production sort of this year and sort of immediately. That's a big thing for me. That's how I determine, hey, who won a draft. Because, in the NFL, dude, I mean, the average career span for an NFL player is what, 3 years, 4 years, something like that?
3.
Yeah. So, well, let's jump into it here, Chris. I mean, I first up, and this is an interesting team right here because obviously, what you don't know, I'm wearing a Tennessee Titans hat. That's just to support, all the people in Nashville because I moved from down there and lived down there for a little bit. But let's start it off here with my team, the Philadelphia Eagles. Chris, what do you think about them?
And you know where I'm going with this. I mean, if you guys if you want to, Christian, just go ahead and fucking draft the whole Georgia team while you're at it, especially that fucking defense. I will say if I had to put together my own list of who drafted the best, it's the Philly Eagles, and I think it's by far. Nolan Smith, man, falling to what, 30th? That guy blew the combine doors off with his athleticism, which was very high on him. Christian, you know that. I talk about him a lot, even though I know he plays for your Bulldogs. And I don't like to hype you up that much. You already got a big head anyway. But and then getting Jalen Carter, who everybody knows, man, if you guys don't follow NFL enough in college, like players going in the NFL, Jalen Carter before last year at this time was the number 1 overall pick. This guy, they got a fucking steal at 9, dude. I know there's that incident that happened or whatever. We talked about this previously, but that guy's a stud, man. And he is going to be great there. They got a lot of veterans with the Eagles. Christian, you know this, on that defense. They are going to teach some of these guys up a little bit, man. And Eagles just killed it, dude. I mean, I could go down the list here too. They got a defense a tackle from Alabama. Also pulled the safety from Illinois. That kid's pretty good. I get to watch him a little bit last year too as well. And then you guys get Ringo too. I mean, it's just like it's amazing, man, what the Eagles did and how they shuffled this out and how I don't know if teams just miss Christian on some of these guys, but I thought Nolan Smith was going top 15. I couldn't believe he slipped that far. I mean, personally, that's just me. I would like to hear your thoughts. You're going to know more about your Eagles and your Georgia Bulldogs than I will.
Yeah, call them the Philly Eagles, man. Listen, I love this draft. I mean, honestly, dude, I love it because here's the reality. Javon Hargraves, I think he was sort of that number 2, defensive tackle for Philly. He has since gone over to San Francisco in the offseason. Okay. So now you've got, you've got big Jordan Davis, number 99 right there, who's going to kind of move up the depth chart. You still have Fletcher Cox over there. Oh, my God. Right? So you've got
he's Fletcher, a fucking man, dude.
Yeah, so you got Fletcher Cox, Jordan Davis, and now probably is a number 3 defensive tackle that can come in and rush the passer. You've got Jalen Carter, right? I mean, immediately talk about a star-studded line of scrimmage right there. Well, then, go ahead.
No. I'm just saying, add on to even before this draft, the Eagles' fucking defense was top 3 anyway in the NFL. I mean, they were. Now you add these guys, these pieces, and get younger. Yeah.
Then you go out and you get Nolan Smith, right? So Nolan Smith's going to be able to get after, and a lot of people, like you said, barring that injury, if even from a combine standpoint, he lit the combine up. Oh. He aced his pro day. I mean, the tape, is off the charts for this guy, but he just slipped, I think, because of that injury that he suffered this year. So you're going to have an elite pass rusher to go alongside of run-stuffing defensive tackles and a Jalen Carter who might be the second coming of Aaron Donald out there.
Well, let's just talk about your secondary. Signed Darius Slay back off the offseason, got Bradbury. My God, man. I mean, Eagles to me, I know everybody's want to talk about the Jets. We'll probably touch on them maybe a little bit here, but as far as defense goes, and Jets defense was legit as shit last year. They're young as fuck. I get it. Eagles to me is still the best defense, and they just got better. That's what we're talking about here is, who we're not trying to grade teams out, but essentially who got better. Philadelphia Eagles, which I thought were the best on defense, just got better with just the guys that we just mentioned.
Yeah, absolutely. And then lastly here, another good value pickup was Kelee Ringo, man, in the 4th round.
Yes.
I mean, you talk about a long press cornerback that can, at times he can lock you. I mean, he's got that length that you want, and he can run in stride. I remember, the one play that I'll kind of leave you with on the Eagles here for Kelee Ringo was when Georgia played Tennessee, and he pretty much ran the exact route that the Tennessee wide receiver ran, and pretty much caught the ball, picked it off, You know, he didn't return it back for a touchdown, but he still had an interception because he knew what he was going to do. And you know how elite those Tennessee wide receivers were.
Hyatt, yep, and Tillman, yep. They were both drafted, by the way, very high. So, yeah, I don't have much more to add to the Eagles personally, Christian. Like, they just killed the draft. When they got Carter at 9, I believe, and when wrapped up that first day with Nolan Smith, I said it to a bunch of people around here. I said, yeah, the Eagles just got exponentially better on defense, and I didn't even think they could. Like, they just that Eagles are going to be your future is bright with Georgia and the Eagles. Must be nice in the world of football for Christian Hunt.
My God, it is.
I can't believe you can even walk around, honestly, without a heart on. So I know I would if I was in that position.
It's a 3-legged kickstand over here, son. Anyways, let's move on to the next team here. So the Detroit Lions are next up on the list here, Chris. A lot of people weren't really high on this, but I mean, I think looking back at it a little bit, I like it. What do you think?
You know, this is the thing with the Lions here. It surprised the fuck out of me that they drafted Gibbs that high. Now, I know Gibbs is a stud. I know he came from Georgia Tech, had a really nice year at Alabama last year. Probably one of their bright spots on offense outside of Bryce Young last year. The receivers freaking suck, Christian. You would agree. Gibbs looked good. I just was surprised they drafted him that high. But what I didn't know is that they just traded, DeAndre Swift literally just like a day later. So to the Eagles, mind you, they just get better. Everybody just wants to go to the Eagles, I guess. I don't know. But I will say that their draft, they picked up the two guys from Iowa, but the linebacker and the tight end, very solid pickups, by the way. Jack Campbell's a stud. I watched him for how many years here in the Big Ten, tear up the, Big Ten on defense. Iowa's defense is legit as much as I don't like them. They're fucking crazy good over there. And then the big thing with me that I love more than anything, I'm very high on my boy from Tennessee, Christian Hendon Hooker. If it wasn't for the injury, the ACL last year, I think he would have been a hell of a lot higher. I think he would have probably been creeping right around that second to first round, honestly, to be honest with you. I like Hendon Hooker. Reminds me a lot of Stetson Bennett in a way. He's older, been around a while, transferred teams. I thought his season last year with Tennessee was just amazing. He doesn't have the biggest arm or anything like that, but he gets to sit behind a guy like Jared Goff for here for a couple years probably, and he's going to get an opportunity here to play, man. I think Hendon Hooker's a winner, dude. I like the guy a lot. Anybody ever gets time listening to that kid talk, man? Very mature kid. Reminds me a little bit of Jalen Hurts, I guess, just maturity-wise. Gets it upstairs, man, which I think is huge to be an NFL quarterback. So Detroit Lions, I would definitely, if I had to grade this out, would put them way up there. The Jahmyr Gibbs pick is a little sus yet for me, but now that you got rid of Swift, Jamal Williams is not there this year. He is now, I believe, with the Saints. They didn't want to pay him that much, so he went over there. He's going to get his opportunities, and a lot of people I've read a lot on Jahmyr Gibbs, man. They love his pass catching ability. Obviously, that's big in the NFL. Christian, as a running back nowadays, you basically got to be a receiver back there as well. So I would like to hear your thoughts, though, too, Christian, on what you think about the old Lions.
Yeah, the Lions aspect of it. I mean, they went out and they got one of the Chicago Bears running backs in the offseason. They still had, of course, they lost Montgomery. They lost Jamal Williams to the Saints, but and they still had Swift at the time. But obviously, Swift was getting ready to get paid this year or in the next couple of years, and they knew, hey, we obviously might want to move off of him and move off that contract so we can keep some cap space to do some things here in the next couple of years and try to put something together. So, I like it. It's kind of one of those moves where they're thinking ahead a little bit and they're not sure whether he would re-sign with them or not. So they try to move him to get some leverage there, get some other pieces, and keep some cap space clear. So I like Jahmyr Gibbs. I think you put him in there with Montgomery. You've got a 1-2 running back platoon there. You look at the Lions last year. I mean, they really needed a lot of help other than Rodriguez, Malcolm Rodriguez back there as one of their linebackers. Jeez, man, they've been needing some linebacker help for a while. Well, so I like the Jack Campbell pick up there. I mean, I think for me, he was one of the best inside linebackers in this draft.
Yeah, 100%. Sorry to interrupt you there, Chris. When you brought up the Lions, it wasn't their offense was a problem. They got, Amon-Ra St. Brown last year. They did have DJ Shark on the outside. He's gone now too. But DeAndre Swift, they had Jamal Williams. Their offense was actually great. Jared Goff played a incredibly good year for Jared Goff. Let's be honest. And Matt Campbell's Dan Campbell's changed the landscape of the Lions. Lions have always been a fucking doorstep forever now in that city. I feel bad for him. Hasn't had like a good team there, in a long, long freaking time. They've been kind of cursed, I guess, if we want to use that word. But fucking A, man, their defense is trash. Like it's in Aiden Hutchinson, number 2 overall pick last year for him, had a great year last year, but you just touched on. That's what I wanted to get to and why I interrupted you. Fucking linebackers, bro. I mean, they need some help there, man. If you ain't got backers, dude, you know how it is, Christian. It makes it tough to stop the run. Also makes it tough to stop the freaking pass.
Oh, absolutely. And they've focused really heavy on both lines of scrimmage. I mean, they've drafted some defensive tackles inside the first 3 rounds where there's good value to be found at those positions. So they feel really like they're working now on the backers and they're working on that secondary. And I mean, I like this pick for them, right? A lot of people are like, it wasn't the sexiest pick or it wasn't the best. Look, it was the best inside linebacker for what you're wanting to do. Talk about a ball hawking guy in Campbell there.
Right. Okay, I got a question hypothetically here. Yeah. This is where I thought when, they drafted Gibbs at 12, I thought if there was one team that should have drafted Nolan Smith, I thought it was these guys. Yeah. And that's where I kind of was like, holy shit, you drafted Gibbs. Like, don't get me wrong, he's a stud. But, man, you need so much help at that linebacker position. You maybe could have got both these guys. And you're right about Campbell, dude. He's a fucking stud. I watched that kid play. Probably I would say, second best inside linebacker in the country, per college football last year, Christian. But would have that surprised you? Maybe that was a reach for teams to take Smith maybe at 12 up that high. I guess apparently it was. I mean, a lot of teams passed on him. And then, of course, the Eagles, swipe him up at 30.
Yeah, and I think it depends too on like what your philosophy is on defense. I mean, if you're one of those teams that you only have one edge rusher like that stands up in a 2-point stance and tries to get out there, right? Then maybe you don't go out and get a guy in Nolan Smith, right? So for them, I feel like they've put so much of an effort over the last couple of years at both of those lines of scrimmage that they kind of were just like, hey, we're probably out on trying to add that point. We need to get some, an inside backer help here to go right alongside Malcolm Rodriguez, somebody that can be that Patrick Queen or that Roquan Smith type guy, nowadays who can kind of play the short RPO game, but can also come up and fit into gaps and stuff runs. And to me, that's Jack Campbell all day.
Yeah, no, he's a stud.
Ironically, they must love drafting Iowa tight ends, man, because they moved off of TJ Hawkinson last year. They traded him to the Vikings only to come back this year and pick up Sam Laporta. So another Iowa tight end. So let's see if we can get it right.
Out some tight ends, though, bro. Noah Fant, George Kittle. Let's go down that fucking list of studs.
Yeah. So they get it right. I think Sam Laporta, he can, go into this place here. I think he can do some really special things in that offense. Then you go back, you shore up, your center field back there, and Brian Branch from Alabama, arguably, the best part of that secondary last year for him. Hendon Hooker, right? I'm going to round this out here. Your quarterback of the future. To me, what he reminds me as another Tennessee quarterback. He reminds me a little bit of Josh Dobbs, dude. I mean, I think he can make some things happen with his feet, but man, he can also throw the ball a long ways and he can put it on you.
Yeah, you know me. I just talked about Hooker, man. I actually think he'll be better than Dobbs, man. I think Hooker's a guy that people are going to kind of forget about here in the next year and a half, but you're going to find him after they're eventually going to move off of golf at one point. There was a lot of talk before this draft that the Lions maybe move up higher to get a guy like AR-15 from Florida, or maybe a Will Levis, which is kind of funny now. We know he slipped. But to just sit for maybe a year, you know what I mean? Behind a guy like, a lot of people make fun of Jared Goff, dude. And I've probably been one of those people in the past. I thought he was overrated at Cal, drafted number 2 overall to the Rams, also got to the Super Bowl, believe it or not, with Sean McVay's offense there. But, Goff, getting traded. Think about this, Christian, for a second while we touch on this real quick. You're Jared Goff. You're in your 3rd year. You get fucking traded your 4th year after making the Super Bowl, basically to a team for Matt Stafford because they felt that an older Matt Stafford was better than you. And then Stafford turns around and literally wins a freaking Super Bowl. I mean, it has to, you know what I mean? It has to kind of suck. I kind of feel bad for Goff. I think he gets knocked a lot for that. Now, some of that is his play, and it hasn't always been great. But he had a really good season last year as far as an NFL quarterback goes. He finished believe he finished top 16 last year. That's better than half the fucking quarterbacks in the NFL. And that's there's only 32 spots, bro. I just want to give Goff a little bit of props. I know I've been personally hard on him in the past, thought he was kind of a buffoon. Kind of come to find out, kick and play a little football.
Yeah, like I said, I mean, it's going to be interesting. I really like how they did their draft. I mean, they kind of crushed it, all the way around here, I think, especially in those top 3 rounds for them. So, well, Chris, let's look at moving on here. We're going to take a look now. Next up, the Seattle Seahawks, right? So I'll start off on this one here. So to me, man, they're running it back here. They got the Legion of Boom again here. They go out, and with the first round pick here at number 5, they get Devin Witherspoon out of Illinois. He's one of the best cornerbacks, right, in this draft.
Fucking love this kid. Do you remember we were doing our pre-draft, and I talked about him. I believe I think I almost had him going to Seattle. I had him right in that round there, or in that pick or two. This kid's a stud. This dude, watch the tape on this guy. This guy only played, I think, 1 year of high school football, if I'm not mistaken, either. This dude will kill you. Like, he has a couple of hits. Being Illinois' Big Ten, I got to watch him quite a bit. Woo! He's a stud. And you said it perfectly. I believe I said it on that podcast. I said, Pete Carroll wants to get back to what works with him and making Super Bowls, and that was that defense, right? We all know about the Legion of Boom, and we can name every player off that freaking starting 11, dude. Anybody that watches any NFL remembers those teams there in that 5-6 year window. That kid's a stud, though. 100%.
Absolutely. So you pair him with Tariq Woolen. You also are going to be pairing him next side of, was it Kobe Bryant, I think is what his name?
Yep.
Kobe Bryant. That's right. Yep. Yeah. So I was making sure there. So, I mean, that to me, that's a really good thing. Now you've got 3 really solid cornerbacks there. And then you go out and get arguably one of the best pass catchers in this draft to kind of pair alongside DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett there. So,
Huge.
Setting them up for success. Yeah.
Yep. I think he's very underrated right now. I think a lot of people, because of the injuries last year, I think he played only like 3 games, Christian. And he had you remember the year before with Ohio State, sorry to interject here, but he had Chris Olave. We all know how he's doing the NFL last year. And then I believe he played with a guy with Garrett Wilson. I think he was Offensive Rookie of the Year last year for the Jets. And those guys even said that Jackson Smith is better than him. That was 2 years ago. So I think the Seahawks did really well there, shoring up a 3rd wide receiver.
Absolutely. And then they also went out, and a lot of people were saying that they might go get an edge rusher here. They kind of did that when they got outside linebacker Derek Hall out of Auburn. Most Auburn outside linebackers, I mean, they end up being pretty good at this level. So I like these picks. They go out and they get another running back in, a UCLA running back, another guard from LSU, some Michigan players in the later rounds, and then obviously a Georgia running back in the 7th. Kenny McIntosh, again, he might be a 3rd or 4th string guy, just depending. So,
yeah, no, you got to pull it up here, man. I mean, these, it's almost they need to fill the role. I'm sure people are like, why'd you draft 2 running backs? I mean, they lost Rashad Penny. He moved on. And then they got my boy. I'm really big on my boy. Jesus Christ, he's from Michigan State. Why can't I think of his fucking name right now? Oh, Kenneth Walker. Massive. He's probably the best rookie running back last year in the NFL, other than maybe Breece Hall if he didn't get hurt. They need a second. They don't have really anybody after him. So that's why I think they drafted both these guys. Christian, I thought you could probably talk about your boy Kenny McIntosh. I thought he was a damn good running back at Georgia. Georgia's known for putting out some pretty goddamn good backs back there. I know he's not Nick Chubb. He's not, Todd Gurley. I get that, but he's a solid back though. He's not even, I don't even think he's probably James Cook, but he's
they
solid.
started kind of transitioning the offense too at Georgia right about the time that he actually kind of was going to be taking over there for those guys, right? I mean,
okay.
They went away. I mean, I think he was still there, obviously, around the time they had Zamir White and, James Cook and stuff. So he was the 3rd running back there in that platoon role. And right as those guys left, you know what I mean? Right before they left, that's when Georgia changed the offense to more of that air raid or, throw the ball down the field a bajillion times a game, with old Stetson Bennett back there type of offense.
That makes sense.
So
Okay.
The running backs were kind of, some of the touches weren't really there, but I mean, when they touch the ball, Kenny McIntosh, he's kind of a good little lightning back there, a little scat back. I mean, he's going to get you some yardage. And I mean, you never know. I mean, he could end up being a 7th round pick, right? He could be like Tom Brady back there, man. I mean, he could end up moving up the depth chart.
Yeah, I just can't. I find it hard to see it when I see a running back taken. It says Georgia. I have a hard time writing them off, man, because they've all been super successful in the NFL the last 10 years. You know what I mean? Everyone, it's always, even if they're not the highest, like Todd Gurley, we all knew was going to be a stud, or I get all that. Nick Chubb was going to be a beast, but it's like, God, every time I see one, I'm like, imagine that, fucking Georgia. It's like it's always right there. But go on. We'll move on here, Christian. I think we moving on to the Falcons here.
Oh yes, sir. What did you think about the Falcons there, Chris?
Big surprise to me watching this live. I texted a bunch of people, I think you included. I said, Bijan fucking Robinson, my boy, who I thought was probably going to fall to the Eagles. I love myself some Bijan, man. If this kid was playing 15 years ago, he'd be the number 1 overall pick. His skill set is that of like an Adrian Peterson, just pound the freaking football. Big kid, tremendous human being, by the way. If anybody hears him talk, man, very mature guy. I like people like that. NFL's when you get a lot of money, Christian, a lot of guys change. I think this kid's just a really good dude. Gonna work hard. Man, they had Tyler Algier, and that's what surprised me is that they drafted him where they did, because they had 2 really good backs last year. Atlanta ran the football more than any other NFL team last year, and actually kind of by far, right up there with the Panthers. So I was very surprised that they drafted him there, but I thought they probably did, hey, we're taking the best player available. Fuck it. You know what I mean? Yeah. I think that's what they did, and they got a really good one in Bijan Robinson. It's hard to see running backs go super high. You never see it. It's rare. If anybody usually does go high, 9 times out of 10, they're Saquon Barkley or guys like that. So I'll move through that list there. The guard, the Falcons need a lot of help, Christian. You know this. You live down in Georgia, for a long time. They need a lot of help now. I mean, it's not just one piece. They need multiple pieces here to become a successful NFL football team. After the Matt Ryan days, Julio Jones, those days are over. So, Zach Harrison, nice player out of Ohio State. I will say that. Man, the Clark Phillips kid, I do not remember him at Utah, but man, Utah had a really stellar defense. I will say the Helms kid, not a bad pickup. This is a good draft for the Falcons. I would not put it in my A tier or top. I wouldn't even probably put them in my top 10 tier draft, but Bijan Robinson was probably the big name for them, though. I think a lot of people were kind of surprised. I don't think a lot of people saw that coming. Maybe you did, Christian. I'd like to hear your thoughts, buddy.
I self-admittedly hated this. I remember I hated the pick of Bijan Robinson. That day, I woke up the next morning, and I got to thinking about it a little bit more. I love it. The Falcons aced this draft, and let me tell you why, Chris.
All right, tell me why.
They went out and spent $88 million in free agency on the defensive side of their ball. On the defensive side of the ball, they've improved at every level. They've improved. They traded for Jeff Okudah. They went out and they got Jesse Bates. They got some of the Saints players off that really, really good defense that the Saints had there. They get some other players like Calais Campbell.
Nice
they pick up. They get Bud Dupree. They get some of these guys. Maybe they're not the A tier, players that you'd want to say.
They're relevant.
They are a relevant defense, exactly. So you talk about going from being one of the worst defenses in the league to probably being a top 15 just by what they've signed, in my opinion. Immediately going to make a huge difference for them right there.
Okay,
this is where I think, and I really stopped to think about it. So you go and you look at on offense, right? Offensive line was the top 5 offensive line last year. I mean, they ran the ball down people's throats. So they did a good job, there. They've got Kyle Pitts at tight end. They went out and traded for Jonnu Smith from the Patriots, which, Arthur Smith, old Titans guy there, right? So they've got 1 and 2, which Jonnu Smith, to me, he's a really good number 2 tight end for you. If you can have him as a number 2 tight end, the dude can absolutely get loose and he can shock some people. If he's your number 1, well, again, you're going to get tired. There's going to be some limitations. But to me, you've got Drake London out there. You know who this team reminds me of, Chris?
Who?
It reminds me a lot of the Dallas Cowboys. Not on the defensive side of the ball, but just think about offense here for a second. You got Bijan Robinson. He's your Zeke Elliott, right? You've got Tyler Algier, who's your Tony Pollard. You've got, Desmond Ridder, who's Dak Prescott like, in my opinion, right?
Whoa. That was where I was going to go. You think Desmond Ridder is going to take the step this year? Like, is he the guy? I know you guys drafted him last year from Cincinnati. I like the kid. He's got a lot of maturity underneath him. He's older, like a Stetson Bennett when he came in. Is he the guy, though? Are we sold enough on what we saw? Now, I do think Drake London's got a future. He had a really good year last year.
Drake
Kyle
London.
Kyle Pitts is a guy that I think if he gets unleash that motherfucker, dude. Unleash him. Just unleash him. I think he'll tear up the NFL at tight end, but that's my
he's going to when I think Drake London, I think CeeDee Lamb, right? And that's another Cowboy reference there. Tight end wise, I mean, Kyle Pitts, he has to improve this year. He has to show something this year, or else they might trade him to the Cowboys, who are still looking for a tight end. And they might go out and get Bowers, another elite tight end from Georgia, if he doesn't take that step forward. But, so for me, they go out, and that's what I really like about it, man. They kind of they're building that Cowboys Titans style offense where, I hate to say it, but Tannehill and Dak, they'll lose you some games. They might win you some regular season games, but they're not going to win you a playoff game. They're not going to they're going to lean on the run game. They're going to have one of the best lines in all of football, and they're going to lean on their defenses, but they're a quarterback legitimately away from winning big time games. And I think that's where they're at. Now, again, could Desmond Ridder or Tyler Heineke, who's also the backup there this year, what he can do, could they end up taking this team a lot farther? Yeah, it's a real possibility. To me, I like the Bergeron pick there, the kid from Syracuse. They had him rated, I think, as one of the best interior linemen. He's very versatile. He can kind of kick out and play tackle or guard. I think at this level, he's going to be a guard. Zach Harrison, again, out of Ohio State, you kind of touched on it. Clark Phillips, the third, one of the best players on that Utah defense, man. I mean, dude is a ball hawk, man. I mean, he's not the biggest guy in the world, but man, he finds the ball, and I like that, dude. I mean, he to me can come in and be probably a nickel back there for him in certain positions, and he can probably see the field pretty early. I like the DeMarco Helms pick too. I mean, he's a physical safety there, and he's going to come up.
Tough dude.
So, I give the Falcons a really good grade. A lot of people weren't high on it, but I just think with what they've got, it sets them up pretty good, and they're going to see whether Ridder can play this year or not.
No, I think that's what it all comes down with the Falcons, Christian. I'll move on from the Falcons. Like I said, they're kind of wait and see. I will say this: they surprised me in the draft. I will. I'll say that. I'll leave it at that.
You could say that again. All right, next up here, Chris, the Texans, man. What do you think about the old Texans?
Okay, here's my fucking problem with this, and I'm not a Texans fan by any means, but what they did, they had the number 2 overall pick. Okay, I'll take your pick with CJ Stroud. They gave up the fucking house, the car, the mortgage, your neighbor's pool to get the 3rd pick for our boy Will Anderson. Now, I have a problem with that. I thought they should have just drafted a defensive player if that's what Ryans wants to do, and he's a defensive guy from the 49ers. I just didn't think you had to give up all of that. They gave up like 5 picks just to get up 10 spots. Like, I'm sorry. A little bit much for me for a team that needs a lot of help. Now, they got some great pieces, right? Love myself some Dameon Pierce. Great running back last year. Had a really surprised a lot of people in the NFL last year as a rookie running back. They got John Mechie coming back off the cancer thing last year. He's from Bama. He's going to be playing this year. He's healthy. The reports are he looks great. Davis Mills is your quarterback. He didn't look terrible. But now you got CJ Stroud. They just got so many pieces. That team's 2-3 years away. I just didn't think you needed to. If you wanted Will Anderson, who I thought they should have drafted just at 2 and then waited till 12 and kind of see what happens, you can go get a Caleb Williams next year. Go get a Drake May next year. I'm just saying, it's almost like they went all in, Christian, push the chips. It just surprised the shit out of me that they traded with the Cardinals. Cardinals got a lot out of that. And I don't know, man. That's where I'm at with this, and I guess I'll talk. I'll touch about. A lot of people are talking about this kid from Houston, this Dell kid, wide receiver. Mm-hmm. I've watched him play. I'm not overly impressed. I thought that was a stretch personally. Horton's a decent defensive player out of TCU, not bad. How do you say that kid's name? Toe, whatever, from Bama. Watched him play. Not a bad player. Jared Patterson. Yeah. I don't know, man. I'm just not. I thought that the Texans, they just gave up too much to get what they got in this draft, I guess, because they're a team that needs a lot. Like I talked about, the Falcons need more pieces. Texas needs like 10 times the pieces, like personally, just where they're at in that division in the AFC where it's just fucking loaded. It's just, I guess that to me is just too much. So yeah, it's nice seeing Stroud and Will Anderson right there. God, those are top, two of the top 5 fucking players. Great. But what they gave up on the back end for next year and the year after that, Christian, was like, wow, a little bit much for me.
Yeah, like I said, I like the CJ Stroud pick. You go out and you put that value there. Then you go out and you get Will Anderson, who a lot of people thought that's who they were going to take at number 2 anyways, right? I understand, hey, the premium on pass rushers is not as high as it probably once was. That's fine. But I like the picks here because you go out and you get a guy that can get after the quarterback, as an edge rusher in Will Anderson, right? And if he can't get after him, he's probably, if he can get after him, he's going to start drawing some double teams, which is going to help some of those interior linemen there, right? They go out and they get some guys, they get the center from Penn State, and then they also later on they double back and they get another center/guard and Jarrett Patterson from Notre Dame. I think those are 2 great picks. Those are both guys that could potentially contribute to their line this year. To me, the Dell pick, I like that. He's a Houston guy. He texted CJ Stroud early in this draft and told him, hey, tell him to come get me. They obviously did. I like that pickup, right? But the pickup that I really like the most here, Chris, is the Henry To'oTo'o one. Again, was he always that great? I mean, he's been in college football forever, right? He started at Tennessee, then eventually he transferred to Bama. He's been at Bama for a couple of years. So to me, I like the pick. I think he's had a ton of experience. He's going to slot right in there. He's going to contribute in their inside linebacker room. So again, I think they definitely got better in this draft from that standpoint. I mean, you got to think they were one of the worst teams last year in all of football.
They've been one of the worst teams for the last 2-3 years since the Deshaun Watson thing went down. So I'm not mad about it. I get the theory behind it. My thing, it's not the players that they really necessarily drafted. It was just like, I felt like they gave up a fuck ton though.
Yeah.
If you miss on Stroud, this is going to they're going to come back in a few years and everybody's going to talk about this. Like, wow, you could have just drafted Will Anderson, who I do think is going to be a stud. And go, wow. I'm just saying, just personally me. And that's where we disagree a little bit. And that's okay. I'm just a little leery about that one.
Well, let's take another look here. The Pittsburgh Steelers. Chris, I love it already. I'll take over here. They start off and they get Broderick Jones. So, and again, just an embarrassment of riches for the Bulldogs here, by the way. But they go out and they get Broderick Jones, offensive tackle out of Georgia. So they're going to try to help Kenny Pickett, and protect him, which I love that they do that. That's going to be good. Then they go out and they get a legacy pick in Joey Porter Jr. to play cornerback for him. So that's an awesome story right there in and of itself. Then you go to Wisconsin, you get Keanu Benton, defensive tackle. Look, I'm just going to kind of skip to the one that I want to right here. Darnell Washington, the unicorn of a tight end. I mean, this guy is an athletic freak. They need somebody that can pair well, or maybe even do a little bit better than Pat
Freiermuth, dude, who played balled out last year, but they like to run those tight sets with Pickett.
Yeah.
You have 2 tight ends out there, bro.
You think about this, dude. You get Darnell Washington out there blocking for Najee Harris. Good luck.
Yeah. That guy's that's a massive human being, by the way. Massive. No, I'm with you. I'll interject here real quick. No, Steelers drafted well for where they were at. Love the Joey Porter Jr. His dad played there his whole life. That is fucking awesome. I thought that was super cool. That they drafted his son there. And by the way, Joey Porter Jr. is no joke either. He's a damn good player. I got to watch a lot of him at Penn State. Stud. These guys did what I thought they were going to do. They don't go flashy. Offensive tackle, yep. We hit a couple defensive players, shore up that fucking tight end position just to make sure. Grab another, a couple defensive players, try to get back to that steel curtain days. Kenny Pickett, man, last year he's a big question mark. Can he take a step forward? If he does, we know Najee Harris is a stud. They did sign fucking what's his bucket from the Rams, the wide receiver, the guy that you traded for me in fantasy football. I gave you for free. I cannot think of his name off the top of my head. Allen Robinson.
George
obviously Pickens. They got Deontay Johnson, and they got George your boy Pickens. Down there. Yeah, he's one of my favorites. I hate to say it. He's from Georgia.
Say his name.
My favorite Georgia player again. I'm going to say it. George fucking Pickens, dude. This guy will fight anybody. I love him. He is a dog, as we say. Yeah, I get hyped up about him, man. I love that kid. He's like one of my favorite players. So yeah, Steelers' future is looking pretty bright here, man. Tough division, but man, if Kenny Pickett, the big thing is it looked like they shored up everything around him. Tried to. Kenny Pickett takes that step forward, man. Steelers are going to be pretty relevant. So, yeah, let's move on, Christian.
I will say this one last thing here. They got Nick Herbig, by the way, who was to me, it doesn't show up there with the grade they gave him, but out of Wisconsin. I mean, you talk about another TJ Watt-esque guy that they're probably going to try to pair up next to him. High motor guy, Wisconsin. Love the pick there. All right. We're going to step into some honorable mention territory here, Chris.
Who you got, buddy? I'll let you.
We got the Tennessee Titans. What do you think about them?
I put my foot down months ago about Will Levis. I know people are going to laugh. I think he's kind of the laughing stock of Facebook and Instagram right now, and everybody thinks he's just another version of Ryan Tannehill, which is kind of funny. He's drafted by the same team here, but I like Will Levis, man. I think you give him. Here's the thing: Mike Vrabel, I think, is a very good coach. I just think that he needs to sit for about a year behind a guy like Ryan Tannehill, who I do think, obviously, is a veteran. I'm not. He was a fucking Dolphins quarterback forever. Give him a little time, right? I mean, Ryan Tannehill is not going to be there. They know that. They drafted Malik Willis last year, 22nd overall. He is a bust. They have moved on from him, from what I'm hearing from reports, which is kind of crazy. Like, Mike Vrabel doesn't like that guy at all. Willis is a big, strong arm, athletic guy, but literally probably started 3 games last year, dude. And it was probably one of the worst quarterback performances I've seen since like Jamarcus Russell for the Raiders. So they're done with him. I think that's why they moved on with Levis. By the way, the Peter Skoronski pick from Northwestern, I think arguably he'd been talked about all year as the best offensive lineman. So we know what he can do. I think he's going to be a surefire start there for the Titans. Titans love to run the football, though. Still got that big motherfucker back there, Derrick Henry, who is a badass. Even though he's in his 30s, I still don't want to tackle that guy. That's a business decision. Big question here is what they do at quarterback. They got Treylon Burks coming back from Arkansas last year, got hurt. Concussion last year, missed a couple games, looked really promising at the end of the year. Titans want to run the football and play defense. That's Vrabel. He's a Patriots guy. Christian, as you know, that's kind of the strategy and what they do, and that's what he wants to do. I thought they honorable mention. I'll throw him up there, man. It just a lot of it. Will Levis, man, I think he could be the best quarterback out of this class. We're just gonna have to wait 3 years. And I might be wrong. And I want to hear your thoughts. You got the fucking beanie hat on, or whatever the hell they call that thing. You look like Nick Saban over there, just a bigger version. What do you got?
Yeah, Nick Saban on a dirty bulk over here, bro. Peter Skoronski, I love it. I mean, they went out. He's going to be your Taylor Lewan, replacement there. I'm going to circle back to Will Levis here in just a second. Tajay Spears out of Tulane. I mean, he had a phenomenal year last year for them.
Yes.
I think, to me, he could arguably be the number 2 running back by the year's end there to kind of spell Derrick Henry, which they need.
Hassan Haskins, dude, is battling for that 2 spot behind him.
So I like that pick. The thing with Will Levis to me, man, is you had kind of touched on it there. So last year they move up, they get Malik Willis in the 3rd round. Okay, so that already kind of tells me what we already know, which is, again, Tannehill's not the future of this team. Not 2 or 3 years down the road, I don't think. I think this is his last year in
100%.
Tennessee, because 2 years in a row inside of the top 3 rounds, you're going after a quarterback because hey, we don't have enough capital other than trading away Derrick Henry to get a top 2 or 3 quarterback in the draft. To me, it just is both these guys, Levis and Willis, they're both physical guys. Obviously I think Malik Willis is a better runner, and I think Levis is maybe a better thrower as far as arm strength is concerned.
For sure.
But I think when you look at them, all things considered, I think Levis might maybe be just a tad bit better than
I think so.
Malik Willis. But do I think it's like leaps and bounds? No, because you got to remember too, if you go back and you look at, because I wanted to do this, but it was too much to kind of do. If you go look at the scouting report from last year on Malik Willis, and you look at the scouting report this year on Will Levis, other than the athleticism that Malik Willis brings to the table, they're not too far off, dude. They both look really good in shorts throwing the ball at their combines.
You just said it. You said it exactly. They're almost the same player. That's why I don't know what's kind of going on here. Like, are they just going to take it, hey, we're going to fucking burn a couple picks on 2 quarterbacks. Pray to God one of these guys is the guy. You know what I mean? One of these guys pans out, as far as potential goes. Because Malik Willis, he is a fucking physical freak. He's like Anthony Richardson in that way, sort of. But then also it's like, well, you draft Will Levis. We just don't know enough. I got to sneeze. I apologize.
You're good. Yeah, I mean, if it was me, they need wide receivers, dude. I mean, they had Treylon Burks and then pretty much the Central Community College rejects out there playing wide receiver for them.
Well, they fucked up. Remember, they let AJ Brown go for a fucking.
They trade him, and all he wanted was just to get paid.
They didn't want to pay him an extra $500,000, by the way, to what the market was, and he said, "Yeah, fuck that." And Eagle said, "Hey, your Eagle said, hey, come over here. we got you."
Yeah. So man, I don't know. For me, this was an honorable mention just because they got maybe 2 players, maybe 3 players. Okay, maybe 3 players that are going to contribute this year and make a meaningful impact. I mean, the rest of these guys, I mean, you never know. They might do something. I mean, this Colton Dowell of UT Martin, receiver in the 7th round, that it wouldn't shock me if he's ended up playing wide receiver over Treylon Burks at the end of the year. I don't fucking know.
The Titans are a lot of work, man. They're a very, I would say, sus team this year as far as the draft goes, and then like what they do here. Derrick Henry, I heard rumors they were trying to move him. Guy's 31 years old. I mean, but he's still gonna have that guy is crazy. But yeah, he's really the only piece they have any leverage with, though. But nobody wants to take a shot on a 31-year-old running back either, Christian. So they're kind of in a fucking weird spot where they got to hit on this quarterback. One of these 2 guys have to.
Yeah, like you said, man. I mean, and he's, again, he's getting ready to. He's on the other side of 30, now. So it's going to get interesting real quick.
Yeah, and I love myself some Derrick Henry, man. But it's like, God damn, he can't just keep doing this forever. The guy's a beast. But anyway, go on, Christian. I'll let you carry on there, big guy.
You're all good. Listen, I mean, we've got one more thing here. We're primarily a college football show. That's what we talk about here. So we love doing a segment where we talk about hot takes, right? Now, this is not our opinion. This is just simply we scour the internet and we find different hot takes out there. So, Chris, I'm going to let you read us for the hot takes.
Hot take. Tyler Buchner leads Bama back to the playoffs. This one sucks because I don't like to go back on my word. But I am a man. I do have a set of balls. I thought Bama was going to be really good this year. Now, I know the spring game, they got 2 quarterbacks that were playing back there that look like fucking trash cans, which is just crazy to me when Bama, we talk about Bryce Young, Jalen Hurts, Tua, Mac Jones. I mean, my God, now they got nobody that can play quarterback in your Alabama. But Tyler Buchner coming over from Notre Dame, who lost the job, right, to Sam Howell?
Yes, sir.
I believe he lost the job out the year before, but to somebody else over there too. So this guy to me kind of says, this kind of tells me, Christian, a little bit, like, is this guy really any good, or is he just jumping around teams, I guess? I don't know yet. But you are coming to Bama where Jalen Monroe looks like dog shit, which hurts for me to say that because I thought he was going to really improve over the offseason. I know it's a spring game. I get all that. back to the playoffs. I guess to answer your question, no, Christian, it's not enough. I'm high on Bama, and I believe I have him in the playoff. Tyler Buchner, I mean, am I wrong when I say this? That didn't Bama get Notre Dame's offensive coordinator from last year?
They 1,000% did.
Oh, they did. And didn't they not do much on offense last year?
No, they ranked 60th in total offense last year.
Depressing. I don't know what's going on, man. Better take would have been Nick Saban. Maybe he doesn't have a job after this year. I don't know. Like, goddamn, man. Like, what are they doing? I don't know. Tyler Buchner is not the answer at quarterback, though. I sorry. I don't think he's that good. I didn't think he was good at. He wasn't good at Notre Dame. He got beat out by multiple people over multiple years. Now going to work under your offensive coordinator that you guys didn't do shit with anyway last year. I guess I'm just not impressed, Christian. No, ain't fucking happening. I want to hear your take.
Yeah, listen, you've accused me of being a lot of things on this show. Fat, slow, statistician whore. You've done all that, right? And if there is one thing I will agree with you on, it's the stat thing, right? I am a stat whore. Let me pull something up here for you. Because we're gonna kind of I like to fight passionate fan bases here with stats. Okay, this was Tyler Buchner last year. He played in 3 games because he got hurt last year in the Marshall game. That Ohio State game last year didn't do anything. He had 2 interceptions he didn't have any interceptions there, right? He had no touchdowns, if you can believe this, against Ohio State. Against Marshall, he got hurt with 3:41 left, and they were down 26-15. He had 2 interceptions, no passing touchdowns, and 2 rushing touchdowns. He came back, and he played against South Carolina, and they won that game against South Carolina. He had 3 touchdowns and 3 interceptions with 2 to go alongside. Yeah, so he negated it out on the interception side of it. So he threw just as much, but he also had 2 rushing touchdowns in that game, right? So he accounted for a good bit of their points there. Man, this is where this shit's going to get interesting right here, right? This is where things is getting ready to get interesting. I'm gonna throw it back to last year because you're like, okay, well, he was hurt for most of the year, but you got to think, Daniel, great point there. Bama won't sniff the playoffs this year. We've been saying that all year long. Let's go back to 2021 and take a look at what he did in 2021. 1 attempt, 6 attempts, 3 attempts, 1 attempt, 2 attempts, 2 attempts. He had 14 attempts there. 2 attempts, 1 attempt. He had 35 attempts. He was 21-35, 298, 3 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, and he had 3 rushing touchdowns. Jack Cohn was primarily that starter there. They kind of split it off a little bit at times, right? They kind of brought, Buchner in to kind of run some more, running attempts as the quarterback there. Kind of like with Michigan, what they did with McCarthy and what they did with, what was his name? The one that transferred to Iowa. Cade McNamara.
Oh, yep. McNamara. Yep.
So, for me, you bring him in, you put him in a room that's got 2 highly sought after guys, too, by the way, and Jalen Milroe and Ty Simpson. I don't see it. I mean, I don't even know if he wins this job.
He don't win this job. Monroe's going to start. There's no way he doesn't. Tyler Buchner ain't. We've seen enough of Tyler. We know what he is, Christian, have we not? I mean, I would think Saban's sitting there kicking the bucket around and going, fuck, we get this guy? I mean, at this point, they're going to try to get Casey Thompson from Nebraska, too. I had put Casey Thompson as starter over all these dudes. Like, I don't know what Saban's doing. It just bothers me. Sorry to interrupt you, man, but I don't know what the fuck Bama's doing at quarterback, man, but you've not had a quarterback now for like 15 years, and now they don't have one.
Let me say this. I think he does win the job. Let me explain why I think it is. He could have stayed. He's a relatively young guy. I mean, so what? He's going into maybe because he could have redshirted there. So he's maybe a sophomore. So he's got a couple of more years left in college, right? So you got to think Sam Hartman came over. This is last year at Notre Dame. And he was, from all reports, he was pushing Sam Hartman at Notre Dame for that job in the spring. Now, obviously, Hartman went out, lit it up in the spring game. This would have been his year. You sit back for another year. Woe is me.
Hold on. Sam Hartman being legit, though?
Well, now hold on.
Wake Forest, man. I heard he was almost getting beat out over there.
Right. But hold on one second. All I'm saying is he could have sat at Notre Dame for another year, maybe played a little bit, depending on what would have happened, right? Stuck it out, would have been their guy next year. 100% would have been their guy next year. No questions, right? But he transfers to Alabama, where I'm assuming that Tommy Rees, the offensive coordinator who was with him at Notre Dame, recruited him, was his boy, probably said, hey, look, come here, you're going to be the guy. That would be the only reason why he would do that, because both of these guys that he's going to be competing with, they're the same class as him or younger.
I no, you're not wrong, but it's like Nick Saban knows what he's got in those two clowns, and they suck. So when maybe he's rolling the dice, say, well, fuck it, bring in this dude. Can't be any worse than what I've been seeing for the last year and a half, 2 years. I mean, I just can't believe the Bama quarterback position we're even having this discussion. They've always had guys, top level guys. I mean, fuck, Bryce Young's #1 overall pick. I mean, it just surprises me more than anything. Like, I can't believe they're in this position, and it's Alabama. And I want to know why that is. That's the question I really would love to know the answer to. Did they recruit and miss on these dudes?
No, I don't think they recruited and missed. I think here's the reality of it, Chris. They've had a lot of guys transfer out. They lost a lot of guys to the draft. I mean, most of their defense was drafted this year.
Christian?
Well, they had Bryce Young. Yeah, they had Bryce Young.
Oh, before Bryce Young?
They had Mac Jones.
Oh, it was before him.
Well, they had Tua, you know that, and then Jalen Hurts before him, and then so on and so on and so on.
They're pretty good.
They have had an embarrassment of riches, and this is the first time that I've seen Saban go out and hunt for a quarterback in the transfer portal. True. That's how you know shit's bad. And I'll say this. I will say this as far as all this is concerned. I'm not saying that I think Bama's, necessarily garbage. I just think for their standards, and I've said this before, they legitimately could be a 4-loss team in the SEC. Because he is stepping up every single week in one of the toughest divisions in all of college football, which is the SEC West. So for me, you go out and you get, I don't even think if you had 5 other quarterbacks from different programs, would he have been better than them, right? That transferred out.
No, you're not wrong. I just, I was very high on Bama this year. And I'm not, like I said, if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. I'll admit it. And I've been wrong, I think, so far. Like, it sucks because, I'm not a Bama fan. I fucking hate Nick Saban personally for reasons I've always said, not what everybody thinks for Saban. But it's just like, I just can't believe that they're having this problem. You are Alabama. You get 5 stars by the dozen on a daily. It just surprises me more than it is anything. Now you're getting Tyler Buckner, who, I'm sorry, I'm sure he's a nice kid. I'm sure he's not a grade A garbage quarterback, but come on, man. There's no way. To answer your question, there ain't no fucking way they're going back to playoffs with him, dude. I would take your chances with Jalen Monroe. At least I know the kid's athletic. He can run. I think Bama maybe needs to go back to playing the old style football a couple of years ago where you just pound the football because none of these guys can throw. Have you seen Jalen Monroe throw the ball?
Oh my God! You might as well put one of your running backs back there.
Yeah. I mean, Christ, we could put Christian Hunt, aka left-handed Jared Lorenzo, back out there, or right-handed. Sorry, put his ass fucking back there at 300 some pounds and throw the ball around. And I guarantee you could still drop a few dimes. And then the dimes that Monroe does throw, which is rare, is receivers can't catch. So I'm thinking you guys just need to run the ball 99.9% of the time.
I'm like a more less athletic version of Tim Tebow. That's how I like to think of myself. We got one more thing here too, and I'll say this. We'll kind of get off the Bama thing here. I don't think it happens for him to answer the question here. We got a T Mace here. He says Willis was not developed properly. Tannehill and Willis are 2 different style quarterbacks with different strengths. Willis is thrown in 3 games and wrong scheme and play calls not made for a strength. Look, I completely agree with that. I am not a big proponent of you draft these guys and they've got to perform right now, especially as a rookie in the NFL. I mean, that is a hard thing to do. It really is. I think and we kind of talked about it a little bit too. I think for me, you look at the upsides and the downsides of both Levis and Willis, and they're both very, very comparable. So if they're both comparable, why would you not just stick with the guy you drafted in the 3rd round, go out, get some more help for, either Tannehill or Willis, who could be a quarterback of the future, right? I mean, who knows? He could be. I would imagine he's going to take some really great strengths and really great strides in this offseason as a year two quarterback, right? I mean, isn't that traditionally how it happens? If you have a bad first year, maybe you get a little bit better the second year.
I guess I have a different take on this, and T-Mace is not wrong. I just don't think they should have drafted him. They weren't the team that should have drafted him. I think he should have been drafted by the Ravens or somebody that uses the quarterback more and his skill set more. Do I think Willis is a piece of trash? No, the kid's got like crazy arm strength. He's a really good athlete. Problem is, Titans want to be able to. They already have a running back. That guy's Derrick Henry, so they don't need him to run a ton. Tannehill was supposed to basically be a good game manager. Tannehill has a problem with turning the ball over. Trust me, I know. Just look at the team on my screen he played for. I just think the Titans shouldn't have drafted him. I think he should have been developed under the Ravens style with like a Lamar Jackson style of offense. Maybe more like even the Falcons that do a little bit more running the ball. Just a team like that. That's where I kind of was really shocked when they drafted him last year with that pick, because I was like, he is talented, but it's almost like a lot of people said they stretched super high to pick him there. I kind of thought the same. And it's not that I think you're not wrong about definitely Tannehill and Willis, two different types of skill sets. I mean, they're not even close. That's what's weird to me. Like, why did you draft Willis then? I could see more Levis now being more like a Tannehill. I do agree with that.
But and I'll say this too, Vrabel is not the easiest coach, even at the pro level, to kind of get along with. I mean, he was out there, I mean, and rightfully so, busting Treylon Burks' chops, for showing up, out of shape. So it's not easy, and I think a lot of it is just where he was picked. I mean, because he was picked in the third round, so I think for them, they feel like he's a third round player, he's expendable. Treylon Burks, first round receiver, he kind of had to be their best overall talented receiver. So it's a different thing, and you kind of hate to see it there. So,
yep.
Well,
I think that's all I got, Christian. I think it was a good night tonight, man. It's been a week, man, since we've been on, brother. Feels like you at least put on 15 to 20 fucking pounds. But no, I mean, that's all I got, man. I think good discussions. Appreciate the comments tonight, by the way, too, guys. I love hearing other people's thoughts and opinions.
Yeah, absolutely, guys. We're going to be off next week, but we hope to be back again probably the following week. We've got some things kind of coming up, but yeah, man, like I said, we're gonna really slam into this, and we're gonna hit the home stretch and make sure we give you guys the best college football takes in the country.
Absolutely, man. Well, I'm out of here, Christian. I hope you guys had a good night. Like I said, I appreciate everybody tuning back in. I know it's been a little bit, like Christian said, though. We're coming back with a lot of stuff here down the home stretch. A lot of college football talk coming up. So I'm out of here, Christian.